Hey everybody, this is Perch. I think there's a couple lessons that have been coming out in these sales videos that hopefully people kind of see, and it's interesting because until I build up even more, but there's quite a few out there now. There's a big volume, and I'm trying to tap more into the late '90s and the early 2000s to do some of these sales videos because I think there's a few very obvious things that you notice right away. The biggest is, yeah, volumes of comics are largely going down. Yeah, if you're looking at comics over the last 5 to 10 years or so, events are going to drive more of the big numbers than the regular series. It's the increasing reliance on gimmicks like variant covers and incentive programs and other things are causing the first issue to pop unnaturally and then cause the comic to settle relatively fast, lower, to go down. Um, but I think you also kind of start to see some other things too. I made the point in this other video. It is that all the online activity, good or bad, meaning people getting really pissed and boycotting a book. You don't see that boycott. Lots of people say, I'm done. I'm never coming back. This creator did this thing, and I'm not doing it. And you just don't see any real evidence of that in the sales. When people make a bold statement of that does it, I'm out, you don't really see it. At the same time, if you look at places where creators kind of help each other out, you see maybe a writer say, "Hey, this book over here is one of the best things ever." You don't see any sales bump either. In general, the marketing, positive or negative, boycott or promotion of comics via YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook are largely irrelevant. It's not leading to any change in the numbers. I think there are some exceptions to that. The exceptions are on the very, very low end. You can see books go from like 2,000 to 5,000 if it gets good buzz. But I would argue it's less about what's being said and more about just pure visibility. The comic book is getting some recognition that it exists, and people, it sticks in people's heads, and they remember to buy it when they go into the shop, or maybe they remember to ask the retailer to order it, and so the orders numbers are higher. But my feeling is that that's happening whether it's good or bad. It's just kind of any activity online, any kind of marketing in any direction tends to mildly increase the sales of the very bottom, meaning things that might have sold 3,000 copies are selling 5,000 copies, stuff like that. At the big level, it seems entirely irrelevant. And I think that that's overall, as an observation, I say these things, and a lot of the fans, the customers, get really pissed off. When I did that Moon Knight video, I got so many angry emails of people just not happy with that message, because my message was basically like all of the outrage was somewhat pointless. It didn't translate to, I mean, the book still did what it did. But I think, and so the customers get mad about it, but I think the real person who should be worried or terrified about it are the publishers. Why? Because negative marketing not having an impact is good. I guess that's good news. It means that if one of the creators spazzes out on Twitter, it's not going to really adversely harm the book. That's great. But the counter to that, or the thing that goes along with it, is that these companies are spending money and doing efforts to try and promote and market and build hype for their books, and it's having no impact. That's the bigger concern. It would be better in many ways if you did see a correlation between positive and negative impact on social media and on the books. It would be better. The fact that there's nothing is kind of, again, if you're a company, a publisher, trying to kind of promote your titles and get attention on something, that's kind of terrifying to know that you do not have any kind of pipeline to your customers. And I think it opens up a bigger, thesis, thought, point, whatever. It opens up a bigger thing that I think is something worth thinking about. How do comic publishers today connect with their readers and drive sales? Is there any way? Again, at the very low end, there is. The very small publishers are able to do some things, absolutely. And then you look at things like, you look over there at Berserker, and they managed to get a lot of publicity and promotion off of Kickstarter to make a pretty big number. And Keanu Reeves' name doesn't hurt either, of course, and that's going to work out for them. By the way, if you're like an indie, well, I mean, if you're Joe Glass and you're complaining about publishers using Kickstarter and taking attention away from your book, I would remind you again, I don't believe the crossover audience for Berserker is the same as your books. I think those are different audiences. So I don't think anybody's taking anything away from you. But more importantly, I think you should be glad. And again, think about it for a minute. I think you should be happy if you're seeing anyone in comics, whether it's you or somebody else, getting attention for a book. And now I'm going to stretch the point one step further, which is going to it's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. But I think this is cold, hard truth that you ought to think about. You know those annoying crowdfunding guys? You know that guy Zach who's got his books and you hate him. When he gets higher campaigns, and basically the story goes out that somebody paid, or some people paid more than $100,000 for one of his books. He got six figures for some campaign. That's good news for everyone. Now maybe you're going, well, wait a minute. That can't be. He's got his own little crowd. Yeah, okay. But again, most people aren't looking at the details. They're looking at just money in comics. It's promoting the fact that comics still exist. And you may say everybody knows comics still exist. The numbers would speak otherwise, sir. The numbers are low. And right now, whether it's Berserker, whether it's Zach, whether it's whoever, it's Dan Slott going on a TV show and getting some promotion for the book. Right now, comics, like it or hate it, you're in the place where any additional recognition is probably beneficial, because the marketing of your books, the promotion, the hooking new customers up to your titles is largely not working. If you take a look at Marvel and you take a look at DC, you look at them who have they have their YouTube channels, tons of subs. They promote little teaser videos for their books. And sometimes you look at it like, wow, the engagement is huge. Look at all these 200,000 likes for this video. And then you look at the comic sales and they're like, 14,000. Check out some of Marvel's videos on the Unstoppable Wasp. Lots of people watched and liked, and disliked too, but lots of people engaged with that video. And yet it didn't translate to comics. It didn't work. You gotta, so for the moment, take politics, who you like, who you hate, everything else, put on the table for a second, sit back and recognize that we have a bit of a problem in comics. And that problem is we're not bringing new people into it. We're not getting the recognition out there. And most of the attempts, the vast majority of attempts that are being made are failing. It's time for a complete redo because the efforts are not going anywhere. And again, I think you can look at this and we can get upset over what this person said or what that person said. But the reality is, if nothing is sticking, then we have a much deeper problem. Marketing as a function, promotion as a function, is intended to drive eyeballs. And if you go to a company that's not comics, companies will maniacally focus on the data of what customers are viewing, what, buying what, seeing what. We ran this campaign. Have you ever heard the expression A/B testing? It's where you run two different types. You basically run a test where you try two different experiences and you measure the success of each. And there are right now meetings going on around the country, around the world, where people are very carefully looking at data. I've sat in meetings where people looked at the number of mouse clicks it takes to go from one bar to another bar and debate whether 4 mouse clicks or 5 mouse clicks is acceptable. This is going on right now. In comics, however, money and time is being spent, and energy is being spent, and frankly, goodwill is being spent. You get $1 billion Avengers movie, and we're going to do a follow-up comic, and we're going to do a little YouTube video kind of tying the comics into the movies, and we have no mechanism by which to say, was this successful? Did it work? Did we drive eyeballs? Did we get more people to buy the comic? Did anybody look at this? We don't know. It's not that the stuff is being tried and failed. People don't know whether they failed or succeeded. So I think we can start to look at the sales numbers and we have the answer to that question. It's failing. Right now, this effort is not connecting with anyone. Whether you are Marvel, whether you're Joe Glass, whether you're any of these people, we have a couple of efforts. We have a couple of things that seem to be working. Berserker, that campaign seems to have worked. Right now, what a lot of people should be doing is thinking not, hey, we need to stop Boom from doing this. This is cheating. They should be thinking, how do we copy? What did they do that I can copy? Okay, they got Keanu Reeves. I don't have Keanu Reeves. What can we do? Go get Steven Seagal. No, sorry. No, not Steven Seagal. What do we do? How do we copy that success? What pieces of this can we take, steal, use for ourselves, and try and drive some attraction? But it does start from, do you even know your own numbers? Do you know how well things do? If there's a Children of the Atom video, and there is, they did one like a year ago for Vita Ayala's new X book, did that video drive orders? Were you able to look at the retailer orders and say, hey, the video dropped and then we had a 10% increase in orders? Do you have any ability of telling if these efforts are successful? Because all we have right now to look at are kind of the end numbers, and the end numbers are poor, which indicates, no, this isn't working. So it's interesting. The sales numbers videos, I think, give us a lot of data. I want to keep showing more and more to it. As they say, numbers don't lie. And I think they paint a really interesting picture. And my question would be, hey, if you're at the big two, what kind of data are you getting? What are you doing with it? How are you studying it? And for the love of God, don't put money and time into something that you have no data on. If you are investing tons of effort into things, there needs to be a payoff. If there's no payoff, stop investing effort or do something different. Anyway, something to think about. Anyway, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for listening.